All right, y'all. We've got a new video for you today, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Missing an element to this channel, and it's my partner. So she's come along for the ride. We're sitting here by the fire, cozy, with our little man, and we're looking to talk about a lot of different things. She's kept me sane during all this, and she's got a lot to say, as I do too, of course, about the world we live in. And we're going to cover some broad spectrum stuff we've covered before, maybe cover some new ground, and then make this more regular as we go forward, because it's interesting. It's fun to speak about things we see out there in this world that aren't talked about that often, or if they are talked about, they're talked about behind closed doors. So without further ado, here's my partner, Dani.
Did I start off saying hi?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay, where do we start off?
So we've got some show notes here in front of us. And first thing I've got is, the world we live in, the lake woe begone. The idea being a world where the women are strong and the men are good looking. And it's straightforward, but people don't necessarily understand it unless they're.
What does that come from? What is that?
It's like this. Let me look. It's like this book series this guy made. I think it's a fictional town created by this guy Garrison Keller, and setting for many of Keller's stories and novels. So yeah, it's the setting, of many novels they wrote, but it's how they preface it, that it's telling about our society, our world, where that's the preferential treatment. People that where the women are strong and the men are, or sorry, the reverse. Yeah, women are strong and it's not correct. Women are strong and the men are good looking. And it's not that obviously we can't have that with XX women or XY males. It's just, generally speaking, you'd say the opposite.
Right.
You would want to say the women are good looking and the men are strong, because we're out doing stuff and helping out in a more physical way, whereas the women are obviously way more than their looks, but that's, of the two, the more good looking, so to speak. So then there's some general terms that come across, so that we see out in the world. So MTF, the male to females that we see, the XY females. It's just straightforward, right? If you watch like films, often, like, I always think of like gangster films, they'll call the women broads. It's like you would never call an XX woman a broad, because you got curvy back and you're all full of curves. So it's just straightforward. Who are these broads? It's kind of a derogatory term, but it's like, it's only them.
That one I never thought of before, but it's so, it is so obvious.
It's obvious. And I've heard it a million times, and I just thought, oh, they're like these Lothario type, like they're like these, like, sleep around. They don't like have like a good relationship with their partner. Who would ever refer to a woman as a broad unless you were like this kind of devious character? But then it's in plain sight. And then I always think back to that time, was it New Year's 2020, when my mom, as we know, quotations, and I sang "Ain't No Hollaback Girl" I think it was after New Year's had, quote unquote New Year's, it's fake New Year's, right? January 1st had hit, and just how silly that was, and how I knew what was going on, but it was just kind of funny. I don't know. And I think she was laughing too, because it's the big joke, "Ain't No Hollaback Girl," because Gwen Stefani is a dude. She's a broad. She's not a hollow back girl.
Mm-hmm.
And how that song was everywhere. The shit is bananas. And there's something to that too, how they push bananas and everything, and how like people are monkeys and like they eat bananas. It's like something about bananas. I think they're like a highly modified fruit, and the Cavendish that we get is not.
Or that part is telling that she's got a banana.
She's got a banana. She's hot. She's tucking. That's probably what it is. Shim is tucking. So then, yeah, often when they get older, both of us have had these characters in our lives. They get to be like scary, harpy control freaks. Not all are like this. Like I've definitely in my life, especially when I'm looking back to like high school and college years, met some XY females that were nice and like timid, seemingly quiet, but many of them are like domineering, like high priestess of Christmas type control freaks that tell you how to do it. And like I remember you told me about like your ex and how uh, his mom, quote unquote, was very demanding and
Literally
uncomfortable.
had to control every detail of everything. Yeah.
And I I gotta say I don't see the FTM doing that as much. It just does. It's not in their like my quote unquote dad was way more relaxed and would always reassure me with statements like, "Oh, you know your mother's heart's in the right place," even though like she's a little bit erratic and crazy. Like what she's saying, it can be kind of scary, but you know she wants the best for you. And I was like, "Yeah, but there's another way of doing it.
Right.
It's not." So then on the other side, I think of the free martins or the the ones that were tucking socks or pretending to be males. Um, they female. That's the term itself is loaded, where you have the fictional character Iron Man, and Fe is the periodic table. It is the element on the periodic table that you refer to as iron. Fe is iron.
Right. And it's related to Mars, and then that saying like men are from Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's telling that their men are from Mars. So it's all scripted in their direction, and they tell you, but then they don't really tell you. And then I think of also Batman, where in Hebrew, bat mitzvah, bat mitzvah means girl, so girl man. And think of the Batman character, where he's all like covert and hidden and secretive, and has these dual identities, and goes out at nighttime and is a vigilante, but like always hides his identity. It's because they don't want to tell you that they're really a girl inside. And I think that's Batman is one of the most celebrated characters in media because of that. It's like so relatable to so many of them. They can really relate to that Batman. And then X Men as a whole, this relates both ways, as in former men, EX men, and then XX men. It's like telling you it's both them. And I think superheroes venerate them and are corny. So then, in general, when we out in society, especially in America, it seems that the XX males or the free martins run the show. Like every president's always been that. Even when you look at pharaohs, like the King Tut's feminine hips, it's always women that are doing all the like. I think of Martin Luther King. They're the ones making these big speeches. They're the ones that are like hoisted up. Um, and then in the background, you have the swire or the XY quote unquote females that are the first ladies or and just looking very scary. So it's interesting, but maybe there's something to that where a female is people are more receptive to a female. Like it's less intense and scary to look at a female than it is a male, where it's like, geez, that's like the person's intimidating. Like you look at Melania, it's like scary looking eyes and intense, whereas this our little man's here. Whereas I don't know Donna Trump, it's like oh, it's a cushy chunk. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know something into that.
Well, going back to like what we were saying, the name, like the female or whatever. There's no actual like real word for a grown woman.
Yeah, it's weird. And it also it's derivative. It's like even woman, womb, man. We're gonna get into that,
Oh yeah.
but it's how it's derivative of man. It's like it's always the man. Like the way the society, the way our language is constructed, or how it's been presented, is very patriarchal or very like man based.
But it's funny because there is no patriarchy.
But there is no patriarchy. It's a lie.
Yeah.
So, but it's just it's amazing because I think we've been using like wrong words, like they've deleted words, whereas like we used to call, I guess, ladies sort
But it's
of
laddies.
laddies. It's just not really a good word. It sucks.
Otherwise, we'd have to go with girls.
Girls and boys, like that works.
But then it's like
But
we're children.
but we're
I don't
children.
like that.
No.
Got
So
gray hair. I need
yeah,
a better term.
you need a better term. Like we've grown a little bit past that stage, and I don't like to think of us as like the eternal children that these people are, petulant children. And I used to have Zach on, and he talked about how he doesn't think he's ever interacted with one of them that wasn't um, like above, say, like 13 in age, like 13 in their.
Like nobody's matured past that age.
Nobody's matured past that
That's
age.
literally my mom and dad.
Yeah.
It's like they're stunted.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom's obviously a real woman, but they're still just like.
They're mentally 13. They don't like they like poop and fart jokes, and they don't like get beyond stupid politics and talk. It's all sham. They just keep going along with it. They can't get beyond that like basic like sense of maturity and sense of self where they're not just basically taking the piss or trying to do something underhanded or act like like a petulant child. It feels like that's very common to just behave like a child. And I've heard stories of like my dad throwing M&Ms at people at parties and stuff. And it's like you never grew up. Like it's just weird. And they don't seem to go through a puberty. It's like this fake hormone puberty. So Cowboys are America's favorite team. The idea of gentlemen, that clearly doesn't refer to regular men. We're not gentle. I'm very coarse. I've broken a lot of things. I don't do well with a lot of like delicate things, just by nature. And then on the next topic, talking about clothes, everything's made for them. I think that a basic thing is that, especially when it refers to like women's, quote unquote, women's clothes, XX women are ostracized and are made to feel less than because things that actually fit them naturally, because they have more construction tissue, just being themselves, being healthy, they're referred to as plus size, or and it makes women feel like they constantly have to think about their weight. And to this day, I mean, I think that you've basically been messed with. You would never act this way had you not been messed with. But my partner Dani here, like she doesn't like talking about her weight, and I think it just has to do with the society we grew up in. It should be just okay, I'm this weight. That's the way I feel comfortable, and it shouldn't be a big deal. But I think because for so many years you've been just exposed to all this stuff, you've thought, oh, I'm overweight, or oh, I'm not good enough, because there's all these people around that you could never compare to. It's just by bones.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in high school, like that was the time I like would buy the most clothes, because going to school and whatever. But it was the most frustrating thing, because to find something that fit, that I was comfortable in, like bras, most annoying shit.
Oh yeah, that's another funny thing.
That is the most annoying thing. So like all the straps would fall off my shoulders, and if I bend over, they flop right out of the middle, and I don't even understand why anybody's even making bras. Like, why are we making bras for no tit Tammy? Who doesn't even need them, because they're fake anyways, and they're just going to stay in place regardless. Just put some tape over the nips and go on with your day. Like, every bra is made for that. So that's why I just wear like the little fitted kind of crop top underneath my shirt, because I'm like, I give up. Yeah. I'm not spending $50-$60 on a bra that's freaking made for you. Yeah. It's so dumb.
Well, and it's true. Like, I don't know why I never like made the connection, but she talks about it all the time. Like, my nipples are basically in my armpits. Like, they're so far out. Whereas like you look at the quote unquote male celebrities or these people showing off their shirts, they're always straight. They're boobs basically. They're right on the center of their chest.
Yeah.
So everything's opposite and flipped, where the bras are made for boobs that are way out, and maybe they have an A cup from taking estrogen, or like just way out, or yeah, they're no tit Tammy, and you're just looking at this like, what is this nonsense? My nipples are way over here. They're like exposed now. Like this doesn't even fit, and it's such an awkward thing that it's made that way, and it's not like just the logical thing where why can't there just be like it's just in the open, like, oh yeah, there's XY women everywhere, there's XX males everywhere, these fit them, it's not like that, it's just all made for them, and they just like we're in the mix, so they're just gonna, or really they like it's a war
We
against
don't
us,
get
really.
clothes.
We don't get clothes. We just don't get clothes. And yeah, now living in the country, I mean, you don't really feel the need to
But
wear a
here's the
bra.
good
I mean,
well, here's the good thing though that comes from that is like, okay, well, I'm just not going to wear a bra anymore.
yeah,
And then you know what? I'm not going to get all these issues because my lymphatic system is clogged and like building up and not able to drain because of like this constrictive shit.
it,
So it's like, well,
bras feel wrong. They feel weird to me, and even underwear to some extent. I mean, I feel like you're supposed to air out your area. Even socks. Like there's so many like constructs of our clothes that, or like I think of like tight fitting shoes and so forth. But to get back on point with bras, like I think you're supposed to let them hang out. Like we were talking about with pregnancy. There's this book we kept close to us by Susan Weed where she's talking about keep your like, expose your breasts and like go out in the sun and give them air and
yeah.
all that, like to keep them healthy. You don't want to constrict them, and
Well, we were never meant to wear clothes, and
no.
right.
So that could be even like a deeper connection, is like we should be mostly naked and just accepting of our bodies and not weird about it. But then like this world came in and everything got weird, and they started making women wear bras, and I don't know, like I'm gonna get onto it, like clothing. So like for males, XY men, ties, bow ties, I hate them. They're so restrictive. I have this like strong long neck. It just doesn't fit me, and I think they're there in the first place to kind of conceal the neck of
Yeah.
an X-Men, and just try to show off like, oh, like they're really a man, but they're wearing a tie to kind of conceal um, that they don't really have a neck. And then also to enhance the fact that they don't have a neck and pretend they have a neck, V-necks. I'll never forget, I went to Fort Lauderdale and I got like a couple clothes when I was there. It was a swim trip when I was in high school. And I got a V-neck. I'd never gotten V-necks my whole life, and that was just comical because I was on my own and I was like, I want to get this outfit. And I saw the V-neck and I wore it and I was like, this looks ridiculous on me. Like my neck is so long that it was like deep into my chest, and it's like showing like my hair, and I'm just like, I'm not this like suave Fabio type of person. So it just looked so awkward on me.
Well, isn't V-necks like the whole point is to like show cleavage? Why are
For a
they
woman, I would
right? So
think,
why do they even
but
make
they
them
make them for
for?
men too. But I think, quote unquote, men. But I think it's that. I think it's they don't have a neck, so it kind of gives you the illusion that they do. It's like, oh, like yeah, they do. Look at they're wearing a t-shirt, and you can see their whole like chest and neck, and it's all there. And yeah, it's an illusion thing. And a lot of free martins I've hung out with in the day, or girls who tuck, dick girls, they wear V-necks. They love them. And then to go forward with the like males, XY men stuff that doesn't work for us. All shirts are too short. I lift my arms up. They always, like my belly always is exposed. And then pants are too long. It's generally the case, or like, yeah, too loose. Like there's so much rumpus uh, in male pants. It's so hard for me to find like slim fitting male pants. Um, I have a handful of pants that I wear, and like so many of them don't fit very well, or I have to wear a belt, otherwise they'll fall right off. And I feel like I don't work out a ton, but I garden and run around outside. I don't do like what's more like, I guess you could say like traditional like gym type working out ever. I just don't agree with it.
Functional working.
Functional
Yeah.
working out, I think that's for them too, a lot of the time. Um, and then so I got those all basic things, and then just basic things that I think men are hit with, right? XY men are hit
Wait, we gotta
with.
talk about leggings.
We will get onto
Oh,
we're
okay.
on women next, but this is the XY men are hit with is dad bod. I will never have dad bod, and dad bod is mom bod.
Yeah.
We are firm believers that swires and castratis, the XY females, do not give birth. We were in a preschool co-op, and there was a person there who was an XY female, and gave birth, quote unquote, while we were having preschool, like during that short amount of time, and immediately got stick skinny and was wearing. It seemed like this person was wearing a moon bump during
Well,
class.
you could see the way that she would move, like getting up and down off the floor, up and down off the couch, compared to another person that was there that was clearly a woman who was pregnant and would, you know, get up differently. It was like there was nothing. It's hard to get up when you got a big old belly.
There's no way you can just
And
stand
this
straight
twat
up.
could just like get up like it was no big deal. I
Hmm.
was like, there's no way.
And
Yeah.
all the while, the husband's like covert and hidden, and like it's got to be them that's carrying, or they have a
I
surrogate,
think it was a surrogate
probably a
because
surrogate, because
he
he
was
didn't look like he had gained
no, and he
much.
was showed up like right after she was away. So
So I just gotta wonder if like she was a semen donor or if he was, and it's a free. It's just so weird.
yeah,
It's so weird. Um, I it's so confusing. But yeah, there's a lot that could go into that. But yeah, basically the essence being these XY females. And then my story from that deeper is like this person I worked with for years told me that she carried her partner's sperm in her bra to get to the hospital to have it because like they couldn't do it naturally. They had to go that way. I'm like that would never make sense. You
no, they would
can't
have
carry
him
you
go to the hospital with her to have the whole thing
Right, and she
done.
said that she was alone and she carried his sperm in a cup to the hospital. I'm like, it'd be warm, it would have died by then. So I think she was just bold
I
faced.
mean, maybe. I mean, I've seen those children. They all look a little weird.
Yeah, so this XY female that I worked with for years, who in many ways was like a good mentor to me, but then was lying to me in so many ways and probably like pulling all these pranks on me, told me this straight faced. And I'm just thinking about it like, you're just bold faced lying to me about how this happened because there's no way the sperm would have died out. Like you have to have them, I think, frozen, or it have to be direct. Like they're not. They're very delicate. Sperm are very delicate. Um, so then, let's see. We don't believe in all goes through XX. So then, yeah, on to women, or like, we hate all these terms, but on to girls, I suppose. So high heels. Like, have you've worn high heels probably? Like, it just is what it's just for them, of course, because they have no legs. So they're trying
Well,
to
it
give you the
was
illusion that they have long legs.
when I was much younger, like I guess like early 20s. I would buy high heels, but I never really wore them because I felt like they made me too tall. I felt like I would. It was like it was
Like
weird.
your legs were ridiculously long.
It was like too much.
It's too
It
much. It's
was too
extravagant.
much.
Like you got the moon shoes and you're like stiff. Because what you're pretty tall, 5'7", 5'8", so that takes you to like 6 feet plus, and you're
Yeah.
just soaring over everybody. And but then just how awkward that is when you're all legs, because you already are legs. It's strange. Whereas where it's more even, because we done the measurements, and it's almost like for me, it's like my legs and my torso are like the same. My torso is big, but like her torso is like really small compared to her long legs. And that's more of the natural proportion of things. I have a long torso and just kind of standard like short legs, and she's got long legs. Of course, we're XY male and XX female. And then another thing we talked about, the bras don't fit, as male nipples are near armpits while females or women are centered over chest. And then you mentioned jeans are way too low, and leggings are so high waisted.
It's like like the leggings are, yeah, they're so high waisted that it's like you could just turn them into like a strapless jumper. Like I can pull like these high waisted leggings like up over my boobs and just walk around like I'm like, yeah, it's a jumper at that point. I don't
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. It's so weird. Um, and yeah, like I had too many examples of XY females. I like one I worked with recently where their pants are just so high. They are like right underneath their fake boobs. And it's just like you really try so hard to give this illusion that you have legs. Like it's insane. And I think of like 80s outfits and like this example, these high waisted pants, but then also being like neon, like in your face,
Yeah.
and it's comical, but it's also it's really awkward for regular women. Like you're just this is so strange when you have them exaggerating the proportions in such a way.
And then the jeans give no room for butt and hips.
Absolutely none.
None.
To where again you're feeling like I'm overweight or I'm plus size, but it's like no, not at all. You are not. You would fit in the male clothes. That's the idea. You will
Right.
fit in my jeans. You
Well,
will
it's
fit
also
in.
funny because like if I'm going to like I've got those flannels from Old Navy
Mhm.
and they just fit weird, but they're also like twice the price. If I were to go to the men's section and get a flannel, it's gonna actually fit me and it's gonna be like $8.
It's so ridiculous. It's like yeah, you just naturally fit, and it's like you end up going for more unisex stuff because it's like whatever fits, man. Like this is so hard to find clothing that actually fits. Or I've had to like go to like skinny and tall sites, and it's just normal stores, your standard clothing stores. It's hard to find things that will last because you're built so differently than what they cater to. And then moving on from clothing, I'm sure we'll like bring. Oh no, it's actually no. Sorry, like a couple of things. One thing I forgot to mention was that you said uh, t-shirts are boxy as heck. Like they're really like I mean, of course, like
Yeah.
there's the proportion. Like you don't have the shoulders, you have sloped shoulders. So when you're putting on these t-shirts that are made for like people that have shoulders that are like 3 head widths across, it's gonna feel awkward.
Frumpy. It makes it look frumpy, yeah.
Yeah. And they don't fit right, and it's just the clear as day. And it's especially awkward for women because I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I look at where I've lived in life, and it seems like there's tons of XX. There's not tons, but there's more XX women than there is XY quote unquote women around. So it's like the fact that all the things are catered to them is super awkward when like the majority is the opposite and just like kind of shrugging their shoulders. Or I think maybe some just go along with it and pretend they've got to. I don't. I think there's plenty of XX women that know and just pretend,
Mm-hmm.
or they're in on it. Um, and yeah, it's awkward. It's strange. So then, just talking about some other weird things like ballet is absolutely dominated by XY MTF males. Like, it's not that XX females couldn't do it, but they talk about lines, and you always think of like straight back, straight proportions. And when I think of ballet, I think of some tiptoeing, very skinny person. I don't think of curves. And it's just the
They
whole
also have
field that
like
they'll say
major
it's like
weight restrictions on that.
so it's like it's catered to them, and there's probably many women out there that have felt just awful being in ballet, not because they were particularly bad at ballet, just because everybody around them who was preferred over them happened to be XY, and it's not fair, but it's just telling.
It's the same thing with figure skating.
Same thing with
I
figure
told you,
skating, an
yeah.
extension of ballet there. And then interesting, just the stunted males, as you might expect, the stunted males, the ones given estrogen, XY MTF, they don't perform as well as juiced up females. But if you were to just let them run without anything, I guarantee. I think of like, you know, you look at these like Hollywood couples, like the women, almost all of the XY, all of them could beat up their partners. The XY MTF could beat up. Like just the energy from my mom growing up. Like she was a smaller in stature person than my dad, but I just felt like she could rear up and punch the dude, whereas he had shorter arms and was more soft, and just the demeanor was so much more calm and quiet. Like I was more fearful of my mom punching me, and than
I feel like
than
I
my
could take
dad.
her though.
Yeah, yeah, sure, but just yeah, like it's really strange. Um, so then yeah, also a big one that I've had. I play music. I've posted music on this channel and stuff. Most all of the big time musicians, all the classical musicians are women. I think of Mozart, Beethoven, so on and so forth. It's all Debussy. It's all women. They have the more intricate fingers. I think of like knitting. I think of these. I'm not saying like again like in X Y. You both people can do music. Both people can do sewing. Anybody can do anything. But when you think of the big names, the ones you hear about, the ones that are talked about, it's women. Even the rock stars of modern day,
Well, we
Queen, In
we
Your
talked
Face, they're
about
all women. It's that more intricate fingering.
Well, we've
It's
talked about like guitar. Like you said, it's harder for you to get like some of the
I
strings
have these
down and stuff.
bulky
Whereas like,
fingers.
yeah,
Whereas she's running out. She's like, "What's that song? I got it." Like she's very quick witted with nothing. She's I think she's a better musician than me in many ways. But then I do think she's naturally lent to certain instruments. Like I like playing the keys. They're bigger. It's easier for me to play them. It's not that I don't like playing guitar. It's just it's I feel like it's harder for me to. It takes more time. It takes more time for me to get my bigger fingers to move with finesse, whereas it's more natural. It fits more naturally. Um, and I got there's tons of musicians both ways, but I just when you think of the generalizations, that's what you think of. What I think of. So this is kind of like a big topic. There's this thing. There's this theme in like ancient Greece of the Isle of Lesbos, where like everyone was a woman and they all slept. They didn't live with men. They just lived with women. Who knows what that looked like? Maybe it was XY females and XX females, or if that's just some story. But it kind of bleeds into today, where when I think of growing up, there just is more XX around. So many relationships are an XX female with an XX male. They have the free Martin penis. They do have a penis, and they sleep together. But then it's like it seems like a lot of the time they have porn addictions, and they're actually both of them are actually more attracted. I think just people in general are more attracted to what the X. You're always attracted to the opposite. Mm-hmm. It's just how we're wired. XX is attracted to XY. XY is attracted to XX. And then what also goes in with that is there are many lesbian couples out there. When you look at them, oh, that's the male, that's an XY female, and that's an XX female. So it makes sense that they're together. And so that's an interesting topic unto of itself, where you have, I think, a lot of probably sexually frustrated couples out there. Like there's no way they're not in some way, where it's like you're doing what you're doing yourself.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird. And then both of us have had relationships like that. Like prior to my partner, I think I've referenced, I think most, if not all, like most of my relationships, not all of them, but most of my relationships have been with XY, just dudes. And I just was like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like it's what's inside that counts. Made all these like excuses. But then when I stopped, I was like, yeah, they are always wearing makeup. They do have like weird extra body hair. They look at their proportions and oh man, this is disgusting. Why did I do this? Why did I do this? And then her two major relationships were with XX free Martin males. That there's some interesting parts about that too. but uh, but yeah, like just things are different. Like perineum, there's just different things. Uh, Being closer for XX, farther away for XY, things you'll notice. And it's just we're so thankful that we found each other and don't have to go back to that and can look on that as like kind of cringy, and we didn't know better. Mm-hmm. But just be happy for what we have. And then to get into more like biblical topics and then biblical topics. So in the Bible, Paul's the big section right after Jesus, and Paul says no women can speak in the church yet, and then many pastors quote Paul, but most every pastor is a woman or free Martin. So there's a great big irony in that. And then you think of it where it's like the society is like written patriarchal, but it's all women in charge. So it's really weird. It's like we are really led by witches, and the wizards are kind of hiding behind. And I think of that movie Witches, where it's like Angelica Houston, and they are all, I think in that room they're all XY, like all those people are all XY.
You can see it in Wizard of Oz, where the wizard literally is hiding behind a thing, and then the witch is like all out
and crazy. Yeah, that's exactly. It's the dynamic. It's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, and I think of it too. Like when I grew up, like I've mentioned many times, like my mom was running the show, running the house. XY is running the house, and I'm not saying I run the show, but I am the one moving around, going crazy, doing stuff, like outside, and like whenever we move places, I'm doing a lot of the lifting and stuff, and then she's doing the organizing and the more intimate, intricate details, and yeah, I think about that growing up and how like my dad was like jealous, not like jealous, but just like he would talk down on me trying to do like yard work, like trying to like build like pathways and like I remember building a garden, like oh because I think somewhere deep down he felt like a little like insecure about the lack how he wasn't doing that, and it also bled into maybe yeah like I have long arms and the whole like wrench thing. You have a longer arm, torque. Your arm's going to function better than a shorter wrench. It's going to have more power just because of the length of it, not just um, the bulk of it. And it's just really bizarre. And then to go into like just the lack of like women and like regular XX women and in power or just on the stage. Just the idea of priestesses, like where there's so many priests everywhere. Where are the priestesses? Why are they so rare? And then I like Bandy about this idea. I think Mary Magdalene would have been one. I think Mary is equally as important as Jesus, and they've sold it to us wrong. And I think that Jesus and Mary healed. Um, they complement. They healed in a complementary manner. They healed together, healed people together, and they just leave. They only give you Jesus. They don't give you. They don't give you enough Mary, so that you're constantly thinking of like the man. You know, God is a man. It's all man, man, and it just rubs me the wrong way. It doesn't seem right. There's got to be an equilibrium there, and I think that they leave Mary out because just like Eve is the one that trips up humanity, like in the Bible. Like, oh, Eve listened to the serpent and ate the apple, and oh, dang it, now everything's screwed over. We left the Garden of Eden. It just it's always rubbed me the wrong way. It feels like it's this damnation of women, and then you could dig deep into the words. Like they changed the words. I think there was some other word that was much more equivalent that existed, and we got to come back to that for girl boy or however you want to girls and boys and however you want to phrase it. But it's so clearly written so that men are put at the forefront of things. And when I was younger, I had the idea that the reason that is because women have a natural role in society to like reproduce and make babies, whereas men, it's like we have to go out into the world and like we're useless unless we can find a woman. The woman is like the goal. They have you have inherent worth. We are only worthwhile if we find you. And then I don't know if anglerfish are real or not, but there's that idea being that the male anglerfish uh, is tiny by comparison to the giant female anglerfish that everybody knows with the giant teeth and the giant photophore over their head. And the male's whole life is spent with the degenerative stomach trying to seek out the female and just become a boil on her so that she can make more babies. Like the male is so insignificant.
Wow.
And then when you think of insects, the female is always bigger and then often eats the male, looking at praying mantises, looking at spiders.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not, and then you look at mammals and you look at like female lions and how they really do everything, and the male kind of is just has a harem and it's just weird. Um, but I do think that there's a clear like damnation of women.
Well,
That's
isn't there like this thing like where it's like okay, men are supposed to be like the protectors,
yeah, men are supposed to
so
be the protectors.
so that way the women can be the healers.
The healers.
Right?
It makes sense. Like the I think of like well, must have been early times where it's like we're gardening. We've always been gardening. So like the man is kind of doing like the harvesting or like the more physical labor, and then he brings the stuff in, and then she sorts through it and like figures out how to make medicines, how to make foods, how to can, and then they teach each other, they help each other out. I'm sure they both interchange and do each other's roles sometimes,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, if one has to be doing one thing and one has to be doing the other, the man is out in the fields plowing, and the woman is inside preparing medicine, preparing foods. And then I bring up the Esau Jacob thing, and I'm like, is this not just clear, like what they're telling you? And then let's see, priestess is rare. It reads to me, we did that. Woman word is coded, woe man, womb man. Treated as lesser in Bible from Eve. Yep. And then also we've mentioned many times down to the moon being called a rock that reflects sunlight. It's all about the sun. These are quote unquote sun worshippers that are the evil people. And I think of like Jesus, not saying Jesus is evil, but like it's like just him instead of this unity. And he, it just, yeah, it's always rubbed me the wrong way. It's got to be both male and female, or both sexes, I guess is probably a better way to phrase it. Um, and how the moon has her own equally important cold light to the hot light. We need the hot light, we need the cold, we need the equilibrium. We can't just have heat, otherwise we'd all dry out. We can't just have cold, otherwise we'd all freeze. So the moon really has always bothered me, and how, and then just you notice it in life when you have your car in the moonlight, it freezes, and the part that's in moon shade won't frost over in the winter, and it's just telling you that the moon is a cold light, it's a cold lamp. Um, and then to go further into like the damnation of women, we know about the Salem witch trials, and what does that actually mean? I think there's many factors here. I think you go into herbalist women, medicine women that were healing people without maybe their like doctors or how they wanted to do it with their like witchcraft vaccinations and stuff. Um, and then you also have to go into like the priestesses thing, women leaders that were like guiding people to like good feelings and good thoughts and good ideas. Oh, we can't have that. We have to have them controlled. So how long have they been controlling us? I think, the idea, I think the fallen angels, Satan, has always been here. It's just up to us to like see it, and then know, and then trust our intuition, and and then be able to parse out the truth by, being better people. Like, I don't know, I've been thinking about just like the hedonistic things I did when I was younger. Like, I don't I don't masturbate anymore. Like, I used to do that, and it made me feel like I read about this last night, or I was reading about this. Yeah, actually, it came up last night. Just reading a Reddit about this. Someone had said like masturbation basically creates this room in your brain where you have all this harem of women that do whatever you want without any like real connection. And it's this psychosis that's created where like what's natural and what's meant to be is you're supposed to be with your partner and have sex or have intimacy for very important reasons, for having babies, for procreation. And if you're doing this, then you're creating this farcical fake reality, and it's making it harder for you to connect with your partner. And then thenceforth, this has happened to me. When I'm intimate with my partner, when I'm intimate with Dani here, I've had other images from my past in my mind, and I hate it. Like, I wanted to like remove it, and it's gotten better over time since I've stopped doing those things. But that's obvious. It seems like obvious, but it's just why I would never. I don't think masturbation is supposed to be something that you do to like get rid of those thoughts. I think we are supposed to exercise or do other things, or yeah, and just cleave to the one, and not do those things, not do those selfish acts, thinking about others while you're doing it. Just be with that person, and have that whole loving experience. And I know that my past experience with other partners, I had never made love with any of them. It was all this kind of gross, hedonistic stuff. Whereas with my partner now, we have 2 children, and there's something special about that. And I do think that we make love, and it's great. So it's just, sorry, I don't know, but it's I think it's important to talk about, because I think a lot of people get stuck in this world, and I think they might come across ideas like the ones I came across, where it's like you need to masturbate to like prepare for sex, or to like to quell the weird feelings you have, or like the annoying like refer to it as like horniness. Like, I need to relax. I need to stop having these feelings. But there's always something else you can do. Maybe you can exercise. Maybe you can do some sort of art or some sort of activity to bridge that gap. Um, so now, I mean, we talked about the Salem witch trials and how
if those were even real.
If those were even real, I don't. I think there definitely was some killing and some harming of women that were powerful, and did good things to help people out, because they didn't want these healers to provide personal power to people. They wanted people to feel like they needed government, they needed organized religion to like achieve higher self, versus no, look within. All these tools are here for you. If a woman's empowering you like that, then we can't have her doing that.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the Baba Yaga story and how it was created as like I think a Ukrainian folk tale is basically to scare children away from the old women who lived alone and didn't have partners or children, as if that was like a
Bad thing.
bad thing. Whereas it's like it just it is what it is.
It is what it is. And that can go both ways. You can be a good person, live a good life as a hermetic type person that is a healer. And I often think of like shaman or medicine people. They do live alone because they don't want to be like phased or like
What was the name of that?
influenced by society in such a way because their role is so important. They need to be a healer, so it's like they need to be away, and then people need to come to them so that they can heal them effectively.
What was that woman? It was a story that we heard. It was from not too far away from here,
Yeah,
of that lady,
old lady in the Ozarks who could
the
see.
Ozark Maiden or something
Ozark
like that.
Maiden, yeah,
Yeah, where she didn't have anybody. She just lived on her
lived
own
on her
in
own.
the woods and in kind of help people who came to her.
Yeah, she would
Yeah,
see, she'd help them out. She had like she was clairvoyant, supposedly all the clairs, claircognizant, all that thing could see really well, and could help people through their relationship issues or help them with their paths. And I know like divination is somewhat looked down in religious, but like, hey, I think maybe it's just clarity of sight. Like if you're a good person and you're doing a lot of good, then there's a good chance that when you read somebody that's muddled, you're going to be able to help them out. You're going to be able to help somebody that really can't see well their path. Like you're going to be able to put them in a good direction or bring them into a good direction, be a good elder or guide for them.
yeah. Well, I think that the whole thing of saying that is like a bad thing
Like damn divination.
is kind of weird too, because how can you say when somebody naturally has that gift that it's bad? It's how you use it.
That's
Like, are
how you
you
use it.
like
Are you manipulating people? Are you doing like that psychic reading where like you're stealing their money and getting like pretending that their family's in the room?
right?
Like are you lying
Because is
about it
there
or are you
not like
genuine?
stories in the Bible of like people having dreams
Yeah,
about
Daniel.
things?
Daniel has dreams and is
Right.
I think it's Nebuchadnezzar goes to him is wanting to interpret his dreams and he says like you need to interpret them or I'll kill you and clearly it's divination. Daniel reading dreams is highly valued, highly valuable. It's a good trait to have and Daniel was a pure soul, a good soul. And yeah, clearly it's a good thing.
Like, there's definitely been times where like that happens to me, like not with dreams, but like I'll get a vision, I'll get like a picture in my mind or whatever, something. Like, I think I told you the story of like, um, I was, I kept like seeing like fire on the road, and it was like it was really freaking me out because I could not get the image of like a fire on like the road. And I had a friend that was driving and a long distance, and when they got to their destination they texted me and they're like, there I drove past a tractor trailer that blew up and it was on fire in the high on the highway. And I was like, I freaking saw that. Like, what the it's
There's something to it.
how I that was being given to me. Like,
It
that was
was
not something that, like, that, people have that ability,
mm-hmm.
but it's you can twist it and make it
Seem evil,
sketchy, but
right?
like, yeah.
And then yeah, then someone feels like, oh no, how am I having these thoughts? Why I shouldn't be having these thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, I think like something like astral projection is kind of a weird one, but when you talk about seeing the future or seeing things, like I think that's hey, you're a good person. Maybe this can help. Like you seeing through this, the Maiden of the Ozarks, or like you in this instance, seeing this, maybe potentially you could be a conduit to heal them, or like I don't know, like I think of like that movie Minority Report where like they have they can like foresee the criminal what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing before it happens, so they get there and they prevent it from happening in the first place, and then stop it from happening.
Well, one of the things that that happens too is like, when I'm like doing like the herbal consults, and sometimes not even people are just telling me like about health stuff, I'll hear it in my head what's exactly going on with them. And but like, I had somebody recently, and I just kept hearing, they barely even told me what was wrong with them, and it had what they said was going on with them didn't even sound like it would be related to this. But there was a voice in my head that just kept saying nervous system, nervous system. And then I asked more questions and dug in more, and yeah, totally. The problem that was coming up was when their nervous system was just shot and like erratic, and then it would manifest as like a skin issue.
Would you describe this voice as like your intuitive voice, or like kind of like a Holy Ghost
It
kind of,
feels separate.
like a Holy Ghost kind of
Yeah,
idea? Yeah, I
but
think.
that happens so often with that stuff is,
Yeah.
and sometimes like there be things like, you know, it'll it'll say like exactly what to give them, and to me I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would they I offer this particular remedy when they're complaining about this, and then I like, I'm just gonna go for it because it's not, I know it's not gonna harm them, and then they're like, oh, the problem's gone. Like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna go with it.
Go with what the Holy Ghost is giving you. Uh, trust in like the angelic force, or like the good that is coming through you as you allow it to come through you. Um, I think of that too. Like a lot of the music that I make, I don't know where. I think it's Holy Ghost derived a lot of the time. Where like I genuinely want to help people. I want to help people slow down and calm down in life. So my music reflects that. And but like I don't know where it really comes from. It would, I think it is
Yeah.
Holy Ghost derived. Like put this there, put that there. It's like I think of music like setting a table. Like you're making all this. You're making a dish. Like you need a little bit of you need a little bit of sauce here. You need a little bit of green beans there. You need all these elements to make it come together and be this whole that people can really like enjoy and see all the pieces and how they come together. But it is interesting that like, in certain situations it feels like your intuition is at the front and center and you are there making the decisions, and then in other instances it is like the Holy Ghost is just, or like this other force is coming through and saying like, do, like you need to like do this. You cannot listen to me if you don't want to. Like that, the fire, having that feel, that's, it's like it did happen. You clearly had this vision. There's something showing you something.
Mm-hmm.
God, however, don't ignore it. Don't just think, oh, this is evil because this book says if I have any sort of like clairvoyance or anything like that, then I'm somehow like uh, like disturbed, or like,
Yeah.
yeah, like it does. No, like I think I think it's very clear when you're being a good person, and I think it's very clear when, like, both of us have had a lot of rough times, and most, I mean, we've talked about it. They're around the same patches of our lives, like late teens, early 20s, and I think that's very common. It's like when you leave your parents' house in this like format of life, like in what we see a lot of the days is like people graduate from high school and then they basically leave their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that becomes the time where it's experimental. That becomes the time where people are doing things that they probably wouldn't do, but they're doing it just because they're like, well, now's the time. And I know, like, for instance, in my life, I would have never taken cocaine had I not had like that energy in me. I would have never slept around had I not had that kind of experimental, just, it's bad energy, but like that, it was like I need to do this. I need to like go out and just be a crazy person for a little while and then come back. And I knew from the beginning, like while I was like, drinking alcohol, while I did hit cocaine a handful of times, and just had a more hedonistic lifestyle in that time. I knew it all the while I was doing it. It was bad, but for some reason I had to like do it, like get my fill of the bad. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Well, that's what's like made to seem like it's normal at that
It's made to
age.
seem like it's normal.
Like there was a lot of like dumb shit that I did when I was like late teens, early 20s, but it was because I thought like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
You're supposed to mess up and do
And then
that.
I look back and I'm like, no, like that's
No,
like not.
that was like, if you want to call it Satan, or if like you just call it like, yeah, how the society is framed. It's framed in like, oh yeah, all these children are like going to college and they're gonna go do hedonistic stuff, and then they'll come out and they'll have gotten their like yayas out and they'll be better, well-adjusted adults or something. Like they got out all the crazy and now they're better.
I feel like for me, like some of that even started once I went from homeschool to public school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because you're exposed to like the zoo, like you're exposed to all this kind of like their programming. Like when you were homeschooled and it was just you and your mom, it was more intimate and you went at your own pace more. And then when it's like this public school, it's like everything's very regimented and it's almost militaristic. And then it's like everybody just wants to break free of it. Like they hate it. So like they break free so hard. Like they they do hedonistic things to be like F you to the system.
Yeah,
Like, I
and then
hate
like
the
what?
militaristic system so much that I'm going to go sleep around. I'm going to go drink late at night. Ha ha ha. F you system. I'm not paying attention to you. That's the kind of mindset they try
It's
to
also like
create.
what they make it seem like what's like certain things that are supposed to be important. Whereas like when I was homeschooled, like it was just everything was just very like simple. But then I remember going to public school and like there was like this whole argument between like a group of children because it was like Nike versus Adidas, and I'm like, why is this even
It's
important?
just not. It's
It's just like
stupid.
weird things that they make seem like is
It's
special
important.
or important when it's not,
It's
and
not
it's
at all.
bizarre.
Yeah, it's a strange like echo chamber that they create. I think of like sports teams or even politicians, how like civics was handled in high school, and how like I always knew it was bullshit, just
Mm-hmm.
politics. Because you'd see high school politics and you're like, who got the popular children are the politicians. So then what do you see? The popular ones, popular kids, I should say, the popular goats are the ones who get the roles. And you're like, why do they get it? Oh, because they're wealthy, because they're popular. There's not like a whole lot of depth to it. And then you look at the big stage of life and you're like, oh, it's like actors that are becoming presidents and like
Mm-hmm.
these phony baloney people uh, that probably aren't. Then it's even like a leadership thing where I think it's good to have leaders. It's good to have people that are like tried and true, usually like older people that have been there, done that, so to speak. But then there's something to be said about um, like your wherewithal and your compassion. And I don't think I've ever like all the presidents in my lifetime have just seemed like they're like jesters, and I think they always are. Like that's what they are. They're jesters. They're like just putting on a show. They're acting, and it's not a legitimate leader. It's not like someone who's like lived with people that of all types. Like they're very usually upper crust, have been insulated, wealthy their whole lives. It's like the upper class, just it's like queens and kings, which is an evil thing unto itself. They become
Mm-hmm.
indulgent and they hurt themselves as they hurt others and are parasites basically. So yeah, there's lot to unpack there. So now I've got some more random stuff. Have you guys seen the Michael Jordan like long arm monster thing where he's like going across the court and his arm sticks out and you're like, that is not, they didn't edit anything. That is not a human. That is not our person, whatever you want to. That is some hybrid animal. That
That
is,
really freaked me out.
it's creepy. It's, I mean, if it's a Nephilim or something, it's like it's something that's like hiding and then like it just showed itself for a second there.
I don't like it.
It's just
I don't like
there's
it.
stuff like that out there. I think of like German videos and just a lot of the stuff that he shows, Deutsche videos. It's like he's just on it. Like I can't think of a better channel that's just showing you that we're not alone. We're with some
Well,
strange.
it's creepy because like how many people do we know that are actually whatever that is?
Yeah, I would think most. I
So
mean,
then we
the
talk about it.
biblical has like their token 33, the 33 everywhere, KKK 11 11 33. But then it's like when I look at skulls and bones and like people throwing horns, and when I look at like, oh, there's just everybody's like going to church, but then they also like all celebrate Christmas, when it just plainly tells you in the Bible not to do that. It's like it's got to be like most of them. Like, how is it not most of them?
Well, didn't we talk about before, like wondering how many of these people, like, we talked about the eyes changing and stuff,
Oh yeah,
but how many of these people are like a human person and not some like weird other thing? They're just possessed.
yeah,
They've
demons.
got something else in
It's
them.
possessed.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's possession.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be the reality of a lot of it. Like maybe it isn't like this Michael Jordan like creature underneath. Maybe that's some of them. Maybe that's a small proportion of them. But then in a bigger sense, they are people, but demon possessed.
Yeah.
And it's like they can't see past it. That's their script. But it's like the only way they could see past it is if they break out of like the like their daily habits. Like what are the bad things they're doing? Like probably holidays, like worshiping holidays. Like, oh, Halloween, Christmas, such a big deal. Like you shouldn't do that. It's probably bad for your spirit to celebrate Christmas every year and be indulgent and kill a tree and then beyond that, um, vanity stuff like, are you wearing makeup all the time? Are you eating animals? I think that's a big one. People are eating animals. They can't. Like, there's theories out there that if you eat animals, you have parasites. No matter what kind of animal, no matter how well it's cooked, doesn't matter what it is. If you're eating animals, you have parasites. So I don't know if that's true. It's an idea, but there's all these things you can look at that would that could potentially be why people have demons. They latch on to things that, and alcohol is a big one. You're drinking alcohol all the time.
Yeah, so I talked to this lady. It was a while ago. I don't remember me on the phone with her. Like, it was like a 3 hour conversation. And she says she will not drink alcohol. She will not go to bars because she has a friend who can see spirits, and said that they went to a bar one time and they saw like basically demons latching on to people when they
Mm-hmm.
were drinking. Well, you know
It's
what
in the
it's
name.
called, yeah.
Jinn is a jinn demon. Alcohol, I think, translates to a demon. Spirits. The Bible has the beer as a well. It's like kind of telling that it's like a nowhere, like deep space. And I mean, drunkards, being drunk is like just talked about over and over again about it's sickness, and alcohol is poison. So it's like you're poisoning yourself. I think most people do it because it's an icebreaker. It's like it's not you anymore that has to deal with the social
Yeah.
interaction. It's the spirit that helps you through the social interaction. But that's not what you don't want to do that. Why are you letting the spirit communicate through you, or demon communicate through you, instead of uh, being your honest self? I would rather. I think back to when I was drunk. Most drunk was in college. I had to be carried home once, throwing up, and then just that feeling that like I didn't care what came out of my mouth. It was very common, and that also happened when I had tried opiates in high school too. It was just, I hate this. This is bad. I don't like feeling like I have no. I'm like apathetic. I'll just say whatever. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember like being at a friend's house, and his mom was like coming up to like give us snacks or whatever. I remember thinking like I would cuss her out and I wouldn't even. I didn't do this, but I remember thinking like I could cuss her out and I wouldn't feel anything. I hated that feeling,
Yeah.
and I think alcohol is a big problem. And whenever I've been exposed to it, especially over the past since we've known each other, um, it's been like really rough. There's been a couple people that I've met who like they can't stop doing it, and it's really ravaged them, and it just seems so bad. And it seems like wherever it touches, and it gets its hold, and people feel like they need it. It's like what they work for. It's what they think about all the time. They don't want to do their life. They don't like they think of like, oh, a case of the Mondays, like they're just thinking of the weekend their whole time. And I think of that, there's a lot of like college, because people would just be talking about the weekend, the weekend, the weekend, when it's like you have every day. Like every day should
Yeah.
have moments and good things, and it's like you're just talking about getting drunk or even high. I mean, both of them are not great when you think of it in that context. I think cannabis has medicinal benefits. Even whiskey has medicinal benefits, I think, for like, certain like pneumonia or like certain
Yeah, the
bronchial
old
problems.
school remedies, yeah.
But to use it to get drunk, to help with the social interaction, is just, that's the sickness. That's when you're lost. You're given
I
up.
know somebody who she says every day when she comes home from work, I don't remember, it might have been Jen, but she'll have like a small glass of it because she's like, oh, it takes you from, that's just a small glass of it, but still it's an everyday that where she comes home from work, and it's like the to kind of like cut off the work mind to get her into like the home.
But the fact that she feels like she needs that is weird.
You shouldn't need to
You
do
shouldn't
that.
need to do
You
that.
should, yeah, you should be able to just kind of like, okay, work, put that out of my, I'm not in work mind anymore now. I'm in home
Yeah.
mindset.
Now when you mention that too, it makes me think of like the classic, oh, I don't drink but I have wine with dinner. Like that's such a common way people drink, and they think of wine as being like the healthiest of alcohols. But then that goes into like fermentation, and it's like, should we be fermenting anything?
Well, no, because it's rotted,
It's rotted.
right? I mean, like, yeah, we like kombucha,
I like
but like,
pickles.
it's rotted
It's
food.
not as good as cucumber. There's no
And
way pickles can be as good as cucumbers, or there's no way kombucha can be good as tea.
you can argue, oh, probiotics, but you're getting like such a short strain amount that it doesn't really even do much for gut health
No.
because it's like only like a certain very small amount of strains are in that kind of, in fermented foods. And then with the wine, it's the pigment that's good for the heart health, but the effects of the alcohol and the damage that it does cancels out any of the good stuff that the pigment would do. And can't you just eat a handful of raspberries?
Exactly. There's healthier alternatives that are way more pure and don't have the negative side effects on your liver or
Yeah. Well, and then the wine thing with dinner, it's like seen as like it's more classier
well, it's funny.
or something. It's
It's
like
funny. It reminds me. This is a kind of another topic, but the line. There was one person that Dani has a podcast she hosts with another friend of hers, and they had a guest on who's you know, and this person said that like she just went out and was raving about wine and chocolate and their health benefits, but chocolate's a topic unto itself.
it's a
Like coffee,
neurotoxin.
it's a neurotoxin, and literally nothing else can eat it except us. Like dogs can't eat it, cats can't eat it. Don't give it
There
to
is
anything
no
else.
animal that eats the cacao seed. They eat the fruit around it. They will not touch the seed.
And then here we are
I
raving
mean, I
over it.
absolutely love chocolate. Like,
But
it's
what
probably
isn't
like my
that?
worst addiction of
Mm-hmm.
all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
But like,
That's probably ingrained in us. It's been every store. They associate it with holidays, Valentine's Day, and
mm,
just roses are like akin to chocolate in terms of like a gift to give your lover. And I too love chocolate. I ate chocolate my whole life. We just finished a chocolate bar, and maybe it's somewhat seen as like less than, like not as toxic as say like smoking or alcohol, but there's something to be said for if you give dog chocolate, there's a good chance it'll die, and you're not supposed to give any animals chocolate. So aren't we? We're an animal, so why are we eating chocolate?
right.
Because we're a crazy animal, and we're wired to do a lot of things that probably aren't good for us.
We could go on and on about the food stuff
We could
that
go
it's
on and
so
on.
bizarre that, like, onions and garlic.
Why are onion? Like, that's a good one. Onions and garlic, I think, should only be used for cleanses or like to remove a parasite.
But if you're eating healthy enough, those things will not be able to have space within your body. Like, your body will get rid of it. It
Yep,
will not be
it'll be rejected.
they like being in environments that are not healthy.
Right. That's what it's for. It's for like I
Yeah.
think like garlic and vampires. I think there's a parasite connotation. I had a parasite when I was younger, and I did garlic cleansing, and I know it helped. But I think about it. I have garlic on pasta or whatever, garlic with some meals, and it's a pretty intense flavor. I mean, it's strong. You would notice it. It smells terrible, garlic breath. It's not like you wouldn't have garlic before you were going on a date or for like something romantic or intimate. It'd be like the grossest thing you could possibly do is eat garlic beforehand. It emanates from your skin. It's really strong.
Oh yeah, if
And
we
and and,
use
and it,
onions in
I
anything else,
there have
smell
been
like it
there have been
for
too many times where like I know I'm in a fit state, like I'm eating a lot of fruit, I feel really good, and I smell garlic or I smell onion, and my whole like stomach like quivers and gets nauseous. And I know it's because I'm in a good state right now. I don't have parasites. My body is telling me stay away from that stuff.
yeah.
And it's one of the most common quote unquote allergies. And yeah, I think it's a lot of people just can't stand it because we're not supposed to have much of it. It's supposed to be very specific. Like whiskey is supposed to be a very specific thing you use once in a while. Uh, Maybe chocolate, not at all. It's just interesting to really get into this when it's like we use this stuff, but there's a reason why when you chop garlic, you chop onions, you tear up. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's your body's very sensitive to it. They're harsh, but they're in every grocery store, and they're in so many meals. Like almost all like standard salads have red onion in it, and onion in it. It's bred in there. Red onion and dairy. Like they'll throw that in everything. Dairy's in salad. How does that make any sense? All the time. So that's a nice. We went on a nice food tangent, but we'll get back onto my list here. We're about halfway through with the depth of what I want to get to with this. But we might cut it short. We'll see. How go through some more things. The next thing I have is social media degradation, where RFTK Ohio and I've talked about this. Like web rings, I think makes a lot of sense. We all make our own websites and we share these websites, and then it's like, oh, this person's saying this person's saying this. Because when you go to Instagram, when you go to Facebook, I don't even use X or Twitter, but like these bigger social media platforms, it's like you get all this celebrity crap, you get advertisements. It's so hard to even see your friend's stuff. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
I think very purposefully, the quote unquote good people that aren't involved in clubs, they only get a few likes, they get ignored,
Yeah, you don't
and
even get to see their stuff.
everyone that gets boosted are these whatever you want to call them, fake people. Uh,
I
yeah,
can't stand the whole like this is so freaking weird. Is the whole influencer thing? First of all, I don't even like that word. Why would you want to call yourself that? It just it's I don't even
it's
need to get I
cringy.
don't
It's
even need to
cringy.
get into
It's
that.
cringy.
But then you look at these
Like
people
that's not a job, an influencer.
but you look at these people and they just come out of nowhere and they instantly have like a million followers
Millions.
and like these perfect videos and everything like that. They're just they're just actors. They're
They're
just
actors.
hired
They're hired.
actors. They're
Mm-hmm.
and their entire story is just complete bullshit.
Yep. And then
And like what? Okay, can we talk about the weird freaking ones that are from Utah? Okay, I need to go on a weird
the
Utah.
Mormon, the
What
Mormon.
the fuck is going on in Utah? Okay,
There is something that's been keeping me away from that state. We both spent a day there, and we went to Moab and went back. Like,
ignore the whole Mormon shit because like I don't even care. But like, why are they all blonde? They all look the same.
inbred.
Yeah, they all look the same. Like there's this family that is originally from Utah, and it's literally like I think the husbands are twins, but the wives look exactly the same, and they're all blonde, probably fake blue eyes, like because they're obnoxious looking. Somebody probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. They, it's like I don't know where the hell they're coming from, and they all live in these houses that like the ceiling is like so high that you could fit like a mall in there, and I'm like you can't even get up to those top windows to clean them. Like those windowsills gotta be seriously dusty. Like I don't get it, but it's like some weird culty um like yeah, like you said, probably like inbred. Like they
Mm-hmm.
all look the same. They're all from Utah. They they all have like the same kind of things, and it's just they came out of like nowhere and instantly have all this stuff. It's just like they might not even be real people. They might not even be like
I think it's this like inbred colony thing. One of my best conversations in relation to this was when we were moving out here. There was that guy who worked at the U-Haul who said he was from Utah, and he called himself a Jack Mormon. Like he's not really he like grew up Mormon but doesn't like agree with what they do and like left the state. And he told me he's like if you want to work there you have to be in the club. There's no it's very difficult to like to have a successful healthy lifestyle and feel like you're supported there unless you're deep in the Mormons, like your family's rooted there. You get treated like crap. You get treated like an outsider. And I don't know. My hometown had like a Mormon church that came to it, and it was very strange. I think Junction was just having, or where we used to live, had a Mormon church coming in, and looked the exact same.
that's right. I
Had
remember
looked
that.
it looked the
Yeah.
exact same, and it's a strange fake religion, and yeah, I think they're inbred and they're insular and they've got their own little interpretation of things. And I guess it's just another branch of evil. But what how it manifests is weird. It's like this like giant inbred family where, you know, the family business has been running forever and like they seems like they don't even do work and they're insulated. They're like super insulated. They're not talking to other groups as much and it feels like that. It feels like they're very and that's not that can't be right. You can't that cannot be the right path of life to just stay in your own little colony, your own little group. Like, you know, I don't want to be critical of people that don't eat animals and just I refuse to eat food with them just because they eat animals or talk with them because I'm definitely going to be missing out and there's things that I don't know and then also it's just it's the depth of life. You can't. be so you can't try to create echo chambers. Like what that doesn't you don't learn anything, you don't grow.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go into all walks of life and corridors and see what's out there. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. It just makes sense to me. And when I look at the Utah thing, it just seems like it's super insulated. It's weird. It's one of the states. If people not living in America, but living in America, Utah is one of those states that stands out as being it's weird. Like it's very particular. Like I don't think of any other state as being like so religiously pointed. Like there's no just oh that's a Catholic state. There's nothing like it's just that is a Mormon state. There's
Yeah, that's
nothing
really
else.
weird.
There's nothing else like that. So Utah is very strange, and we only spent a day there and got like the kind of the hippie side of it. Um, yeah. So let's see. We've got
I'm
some.
gonna need to pause this because
We might need to pause this and resume.
we have little people
We have little people that need our
problems.
help.